Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Finding Yourself Again, where we focus on hope, healing, and recovery from toxic narcissistic abuse. The ultimate goal is to establish self-love, healthy relationships, and ultimately find you. My name is Dontre. I'm a survivor of toxic narcissistic abuse from a borderline. If you find these videos to be helpful to you, I ask that you subscribe to my channel, like, share the content, and watch any other videos on my channel that might be helpful to you. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. So with that being said, let's get in the video. All right, y'all. So today's video is going to be about why it seems like nobody understands toxic or narcissistic abuse. That's what today's video is going to be about. And I didn't take no notes for this. I don't need any notes for this. You know what I'm saying? This is something that I have experienced after the toxic relationship, of course. If you haven't seen already, y'all could check out my story if you're interested in about my personal story with a toxic person, individual that has borderline and narcissistic tendencies. And so yeah, man. So, after I went through that toxic relationship, I was broken. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had anxiety, depression. Mind you, I was diagnosed with disorders. Like, I'm not just saying, oh, I feel like this, I feel like that. I was actually diagnosed by a psychiatrist. So I had MDD, major depressive disorder, GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, substance abuse disorder, and CPTSD. So, and the CPTSD was was more so related to my trauma in the relationship, as well as some other occurrences that had happened in my life too. But I attribute it more so to the relationship because that is constant abuse and just problems that I was dealing with, right? So yeah, man, I was going through I went through all that. I was already out the relationship at this time. I was in therapy. I got a psychiatrist. And I remember, man, like I wasn't on my hands and knees anymore at this point, right? Like, I was a little more emotionally stable, but at the end of the day, I was still somewhat emotionally compromised and dysregulated and shit like that. So I wasn't like emotionally stable fully, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so as you could imagine, I'm reaching out to people for support, like loved ones, family, friends. I would talk to a rock if it could provide me validation and support and make me feel cared for, right? So I'm calling everybody up, man. I'm calling up loved ones. I'm calling up family members. And I'm not gonna say specifically who I called, but what I will say is that it was a few family members, close family members that I had called, and it just seemed like they were invalidating my history, my past, my abuse, my feelings. It was more of like I felt more of they were coming off as like, okay, yeah, I get it. You went through a toxic relationship, but like, so what? 80 or 90% of us have been through a toxic or bad relationship. You know what I mean? Get over it. Now this is why I wanted to make this video, because that right there was very invalidating and it was very hurtful to me. And mind you, you look for family, you look for loved ones for support when you're really struggling. We learned that from early on as a child, like as a jit, like before we're even before we're even old enough to consciously know what we're doing, we whenever we're whenever we get hurt, or whenever we're compromised or in jeopardy or something like that, or experience a negative emotion when we're young, the first thing we do is go to the person that provides us the loving, caring, nurturing support, right? Who is that? That's your family. So, so I call up my family, and I get met with invalidation. I get met with, some of these conversations even turn into arguments. You know what I mean? Because I'm sitting there trying to tell them, like, you don't understand, what I went through, and they're trying to explain to me why I've been through a bad relationship too. And yeah, although you may have been in a toxic relationship, but were you with a narcissist? You know what I mean? Were you with a borderline? Were you with somebody that was diagnosed with a personality disorder? Were you, or were you with somebody that was exhibiting many of these narcissistic traits? I'm not here to say if you were or if you're not, or point the finger or not, but I'm here to explain to my audience and my viewers, anybody that watches this video, that I understand. I understand that most people don't understand how you feel, what it's like to go through this type of abuse, what it's like to have a trauma bond with somebody, what it's like to feel empty, have low self-esteem, contemplate life even. I have at times, so I know how it feels. Trust me, I've been there. I've been there. You're not alone in this. I have been there. I've been right there with you before. So I want you to know that no matter how bad you might be feeling right now, or no matter how bad you have felt in the past, it will get better. And it's the faster time alone, it will heal it, right? But you don't want time, because the thing is this: time will heal the feelings, but time alone is not going to heal you. There's a reason that you chose a toxic partner. There's some type of attachment, maybe codependency that you have. Maybe obviously you built an attachment and a codependency and literally an addiction, like a drug, with this person, because that's what happens. With all of their behaviors, it acts as a substance to you in your mind. You're chemically addicted to this person after a while. So you got to think about that. But there's a reason why you chose to be with this person, and there's a reason why you chose to stay with this person, if you did for a prolonged amount of time, like I did. I stayed for 5 years with somebody who was toxic as hell, and I knew after the first year that it was not beneficial and it was toxic, but I stayed because I was hooked. So, and these people that, they're real flattering. They're really good at what they do. They're really good at portraying a fake image and showing you a fake mask of themselves. Watch my video about what a narcissistic mask is. It's pretty informative, and it's kind of interesting. But yeah, they will get you with this fake image of themselves. And what happens is you literally fall in love with the mask, not the real them, but this fake image that they have. And they don't really love you, but you really love them. And because of the initial behavior and the mask and the foolery, the trickery that they did on you, it makes it to where you are constantly questioning, do they love me or do they not love me? You know what I mean? And You know, and you can watch my video that I just dropped yesterday about, is narcissistic love real or not? You know, that's another good video to watch. But yeah, man, so just understand those things. That's how they are, that's their behavior. And like I was saying, most people that you come across, they're just not going to understand what you went through at all. You know, and they may be thinking that they're helping you by telling you whatever they're telling you, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to be hurting you. You know, so what you want to do here, what, you know, immediately after you get out of a toxic relationship, I would immediately go into therapy. And that is what I did, because I knew I needed it. Whether I believed that it would work or not, I really didn't give a fuck, because I didn't care. Hey, a drowning man don't care who saves him. I'll say that again, man. A drowning man don't care who saves him. You could be the devil. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't care who you are. You could be a serial killer. But if I'm drowning and I need to be saved, I need your help. You know, so all these people that be saying, "Oh, I don't understand therapy and I didn't get nothing out of it," that's because you're not taking it seriously, and you're not trying, and you must not really be drowning, because if you were, you would be open to receive the help. You know, so whether you're really going through it or not, drowning or not, you should have a therapist. In my opinion, you should have a therapist, because it's helpful. What's wrong about it? And the most important part is you're talking to a professional. You're not talking to your fucking friends or your family who are not professionals and have no idea what they're talking about. They didn't research this shit. You know what I mean? They don't know the 9 traits of NPD. Do they even know what NPD stands for? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these people, they have no fucking idea, man. And you're talking to them, and I have too. I've been there. That's why I'm making this video. I was even talking to these people as if they're really gonna help me. And don't get me wrong, family. And mind you, I was just talking to my grandmother on this. I run every Monday through Friday. I go for a run with my grandmother. And today I was actually just talking about this. We were talking about some mental health related stuff. And I was telling her, you know, like, there's nothing really wrong with talking to loved ones about whatever you want to talk about in your life, you know, but at the end of the day, they're not professionals. So although they can provide comfort, support, sense of healing, or whatever may have you, that's great, but they're still not professionals. You need a professional that is going to be able to break the situation down, look into your past, you know, look into the origins of your behaviors, why you chose this person, or why you behave the way that you do, for whatever the cause. And you need to start working towards changing that and fixing that. Because like I said earlier, time will heal you as far as the way you feel and as far as the relationship. Yeah. But time alone is not going to heal your past. It's not going to heal the things that have affected you in certain ways to make you act in certain ways, right? That's what it's not going to heal. So you actually need to work on that and seek therapy, seek help, seek this kind of content, you know, and at the end of the day, work on yourself and focus on yourself and find out who you really are. Who really are you, you know, who are you by yourself? That's what you need. You need to know, who are you when you're alone, when you have no friends and no family around. Are you comfortable in your own skin? And if you're not, how can you become comfortable in your own skin? So that's basically what I wanted to make this video about, man. I wanted to explain to you guys that I know exactly how it feels to get out of a toxic relationship. Everything is basically going on accordance, man. You went no contact, you blocked them, blocked emails, blocked numbers, and there's no way to contact, and you're practicing self-care and all this other stuff. And then it's like you start to reach out to family for support, and you realize that you actually feel worse after talking with them than before you called them. So I would advise you, in my opinion, it's not really even worth talking about to most of my loved ones. There's maybe one or maybe two people that I can really talk, feel more comfortable talking about my life and issues and my past struggles, especially regarding with the relationship, my traumatic relationship. There's maybe one or possibly two people in my family that I would. And it's crazy because I used to be so open with just like, not even just my family, but I would just tell anybody, like random people. I could just meet you today and be like, man, I'm really going through this, what do you think about it? And I'll get random people's opinions and advice. I don't do that anymore. I would much rather talk to a professional. And if I can't talk to a professional, I actually use AI. I like using AI because it's unbiased, non-judgmental. It holds nothing. We have no, there's no wrong intentions there. And it's simply informative, validating, helpful. There's so many good qualities, and it's resourceful, and yeah, so maybe you guys could check into, might want to look into that if that sounds like it sparks your interest or something like that. But yeah, man, I'm gonna cut this video. I'm not gonna make it go on forever, but at the end of the day, I want you to know this: you're not alone. I'm sorry that you have experienced trauma in your life. I really am. I'm sorry that your loved ones may not be really understanding you or validating how you feel. But you know what? I validate how you feel. I care about how you feel. And if that means anything to you, you know, and just know you're not alone. There is somebody else out there in the world going through this right now. Even worse off, there's somebody out there that is probably still with a toxic person, and maybe they don't have the courage to get out. So if you made it this far, and if you've made it out, I would pat yourself on the back about that, and be proud and give yourself that self-compassion that you deserve. All right, so I really hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you enjoy this style of video. I'm not just looking at my notes. This is coming from the heart. I had no notes for this. This is coming from my literal information and knowledge and life experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it this far, I ask that you hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 100K, and you can help me get there. And I feel like it's the least y'all can do for me putting out this personal and informative content for y'all. Don't forget to like the video, share the content if you can, and last but not least, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, practicing self-love, self-compassion, exercising, eating healthy, And stay tuned for my next videos. I drop them daily. All right, guys. See you guys next time. Bye.